You crack an egg into a pan every single morning without thinking twice about it. It's the most normal object in your kitchen. But stop for 1 second and actually look at what you're holding. An egg is a single cell, engineered by evolution to become a living, breathing animal. A complete package of nutrients, instructions, and potential life. So why does one species version of that sit in your fridge as a breakfast staple, while almost every other animal's version on this planet never comes anywhere near your plate? Humans eat over 1.2 trillion chicken eggs every single year. That's more than 150 eggs for every person alive on Earth, from a single species of bird. Meanwhile, there are roughly 10,000 species of birds on this planet. Add in reptiles, fish, amphibians, and insects, and almost every single one of them lays eggs too. And almost none of them will ever end up on a table. Here's the part that will change how you see your breakfast forever. The chicken didn't win because its eggs are special. It won because of a chain of biological accidents that had nothing to do with taste. Let's start with the animal that almost made it. Quail eggs. Tiny, speckled. Sold in tins across grocery stores in Asia and parts of Europe. People treat them almost like miniature chicken eggs. And biologically, that's basically what they are. Same bird family, same egg structure, just scaled down. Once a culture already accepts one bird's egg as food, a closely related bird slides right in behind it. No resistance, no disgust. Duck eggs work exactly the same way. Richer yolk, thicker shell, but close enough to a chicken egg that most people never even question it. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. In the Philippines, Vietnam, and Cambodia, one of the most popular street foods on Earth is balut, a fertilized duck egg, incubated for 2 to 3 weeks, boiled, and eaten with the partially developed embryo still inside. Millions of people eat this regularly, casually, the way you'd eat a boiled egg on your way to work. To someone raised on a Western breakfast table, that single sentence is enough to trigger real physical disgust. But structurally, it's the exact same egg you had this morning, just caught a few days later in its development. Psychologist Rozin spent decades studying this exact reaction. And what he found should unsettle you. Disgust isn't really about danger at all. Most disgust responses aren't instinct. They're learned associations, installed after birth. Balut doesn't disgust people because it's more dangerous than a chicken egg. It disgusts the people who weren't raised eating it, and does absolutely nothing to the people who were. Same biology, two completely different reactions. The egg never changed. Your upbringing did. Now go further out. Fish eggs. And this one breaks the entire pattern. Because fish eggs aren't some fringe delicacy eaten in secret. They're eaten constantly, openly, proudly. Caviar from sturgeon sells for thousands of dollars a pound. Salmon roe sits on top of sushi counters in every major city. Herring eggs, flying fish eggs, even cod eggs show up across dozens of cuisines. Fish eggs prove the barrier was never really about how far an animal sits from us on the evolutionary tree. Fish are about as distant from mammals as vertebrates get, and their eggs are treated as luxury food. So why stop at reptiles? Sea turtle eggs used to be eaten widely across Central America and Southeast Asia, harvested straight off nesting beaches by the thousands. Then turtle populations collapsed. Nearly every species of sea turtle on Earth is now endangered, and harvesting their eggs is illegal in most of the world. What used to be a completely normal food source didn't disappear because people got disgusted by it. It disappeared because conservation law erased it almost overnight. But in parts of northern Australia, saltwater crocodile eggs are still legally harvested by Aboriginal communities under regulated quotas. And according to people who've eaten both, they taste closer to a rich duck egg than anything you'd imagine a reptile producing. The eggs were never the problem. Access and regulation were. Amphibians, though, they barely register at all. Frog eggs, those gelatinous clusters you've seen floating in a pond, are almost never eaten anywhere on Earth. And this time, there's an actual biological reason behind it, not just culture. Frog and toad eggs are mostly water and jelly, with almost no caloric value, and many species coat their eggs in mild toxins, specifically to stop predators from doing exactly what we're talking about right now. Evolution built a direct defense against egg eating, and it actually worked. This is one of the only cases on this entire list where the animal fought back and won. Insects lay eggs too. In central Mexico, ant larvae and eggs are harvested from the roots of maguey plants and sold as escamoles. Expensive, considered a genuine delicacy, and eaten in that region since before the Aztec Empire existed. Most people outside that region have never even heard the word. Not because it's unsafe, not because it's disgusting to the people who eat it, but because the culinary tradition around it never spread the way industrial chicken farming did. And here's a layer almost nobody talks about, one that traces back to one of the most devastating extinction events humans ever caused. In the 1800s, passenger pigeons numbered in the billions across North America. Billions. Their eggs were harvested by the wagon load and sold cheap in city markets right alongside the birds themselves. Within a few decades of unregulated industrial-scale collection, the species collapsed completely. The last passenger pigeon on Earth, a bird named Martha, died alone in captivity in 1914. That single collapse, along with the near extinction of several other North American bird species from the exact same unregulated harvesting, led directly to the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918, a law that made it illegal in the United States to collect the eggs of almost any wild bird species without a federal permit. Similar protections now exist across Europe and much of the world, so an entire category of eggs, from robins to hawks, isn't off the menu because people find them disgusting. It's off the menu because the last time humans treated wild bird eggs as a casual, unlimited food source, an entire species vanished inside a single human lifetime. Religion added its own layer on top of biology and law. Kosher dietary rules only permit eggs from birds that are themselves considered kosher. And even then, an egg with a visible blood spot in the yolk has to be discarded entirely, because Jewish law treats that spot as evidence the egg was already developing toward life. Islamic dietary guidelines carry similar restrictions tied to which birds are permissible in the first place. These rules weren't written by food scientists. They were codified thousands of years before anyone even understood embryology, and they're still quietly shaping what sits in your supermarket today. Then there's the layer installed inside you, before you were even old enough to remember it. Childhood imprinting turns out to be one of the strongest predictors of adult food acceptance that psychologists have ever measured. Studies on food neophobia consistently show that the window for accepting a new food without disgust slams shut somewhere around age 2 to 3. A child raised in a household where balut or escamoles are normal grows into an adult who feels absolutely nothing eating them. A child who only ever sees eggs in shell and carton form grows into an adult who recoils at the sight of a duck embryo. Nobody is born disgusted by a fertilized egg. That reaction gets installed later, and once it's installed, it almost never gets uninstalled. Which brings us to the real answer, and it has almost nothing to do with taste or nutrition at all. It comes down to how absurdly productive the chicken itself became. A wild bird lays somewhere between 10 and 20 eggs a year, usually seasonally, timed to nature. Modern egg-laying hens, descended from the red jungle fowl of Southeast Asia, now lay around 300 eggs a year. That number is not natural. It was engineered, generation after generation, through relentless selective breeding. No other domesticated egg-laying animal on the planet comes anywhere close to that output. Ducks max out around 150 to 200 a year under intensive farming. Quail can get close to chicken numbers, but the eggs themselves are a fraction of the size. Once chickens could produce that kind of volume, reliably, cheaply, and safely, there was simply no economic reason left to industrialize any other bird's eggs at scale. The market didn't pick the tastiest egg. It picked the most productive animal. And every food culture on Earth built itself around whatever that animal happened to be. Salmonella risk sealed the deal. Once modern hygiene and vaccination programs took hold, chicken eggs became one of the most tightly regulated food products on the entire planet. Wild bird eggs, reptile eggs, amphibian eggs, they all carry far less predictable bacterial and parasite risks, simply because nobody has spent a century building farming infrastructure specifically to manage them. The chicken didn't earn safety. It was given safety at industrial scale because it was already winning everywhere else. So here's the honest answer. Almost every egg on this planet is technically edible right now. Chicken eggs aren't uniquely safe. They're not uniquely nutritious. They're not uniquely delicious compared to a duck egg, a quail egg, or even a crocodile egg. What actually decided the entire menu was a few thousand years of selective breeding on one specific jungle fowl, combined with whatever a person happened to grow up eating, and nothing more than that. The line between breakfast and disgusting was never drawn by biology. It was drawn by whichever animal your ancestors happened to domesticate first. And every generation since has just quietly inherited that boundary, without ever once stopping to ask where it actually came from. Next time you crack an egg into a pan, remember, you're not eating the safest one. You're not eating the best one. You're eating the one your ancestors happened to pick first.